Okay, now in this lesson we're going to make the window panes. First of all, I'm going to make this fifth floor invisible. Drag the window pane out of the temp null object. Hit O on the keyboard. And let's close the polygon hole at the back. And then use the loop selection to select the edges at the front, delete them. Now let's go to the front view, switch to the point mode, and I'm going to select all of these points here and delete them. And now select these 2 points, make the fifth floor visible again, and move these points up to close the gap here. And now I'm going to center the object axis on this window pane and make a copy of it. Rename this to window grid. Okay, put this in the temp null object, and now let's duplicate this window pane. First we need 6 copies, enable movement on the x-axis, deactivate rotation, apply these settings, connect the window panes, delete these 2 objects, and duplicate this one. We need 3 copies, deactivate movement, enable rotation, apply these settings, and connect these window panes. Delete these 2 objects. I'm going to rename this to window panes, drag the dark material onto it and put it in the fifth floor null object. Okay, and that's it for this part. In the next bit we're going to make the window grid for the fifth floor. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you then. Bye bye. Okay, so in this bit we're going to make the window grid for the fifth floor. First of all, let's make this fifth floor invisible. And now let's drag our window grid out of the temp null object. Go to the back view, switch the cameras to front, hit O on the keyboard, go to the edge mode and select these 2 edges here. Right click and apply an edge cut with an offset of 50%, 1 subdivision and no n-gons. And now let's select this new edge here and move it up to 45 units on the y-axis. And I'm going to select these edges here, right click and apply another edge cut. This time I want 2 subdivisions. Now let's select these edges here and change their size to 90 units on the x-axis. And now I'm going to select all of these edges here, right click and bevel these with an inner offset of 3 units. Go to the polygon mode and delete all of these polygons here. Switch to the point mode, deselect all, and optimize the object. Now let's go back to the polygon mode. Right click and extrude these polygons with an offset of 2 meters to make them flush with the window frame. And next I'm going to delete the polygons that we don't need. So let's select these polygons here, and this one over here, and these 2 down here. Okay, now let's delete these polygons, go back to the edge mode, switch to the front view, and I'm going to use the loop selection tool with stop at boundary edges selected to select these edges here. And as with the other window grids, I want these edges here as well. And now let's use the rectangle selection tool to select these edges here in the corners. Okay, and now let's save this selection, rename it to edges for beveling. Now I'm going to make this fifth floor visible again. Go to the front view, switch to the polygon mode and select all of these polygons here. And I want to move these down to 25 on the y-axis. Now let's go to the point mode and select these points here at the top, move them down, and roughly align these points with the edge of the window frame. And now select these points here and move them up a bit. Again, align them with the edge of the window frame. And you can see that we have a bit of a problem here because we have this curve on the window frame here, but we only have 2 points on this window grid, which means that this is not enough to follow the shape of this window frame. So we need to create additional geometry here. Let's switch the display to lines. Right click, activate the knife tool, and I'm going to use the same settings here that I used before, and just make sure that snapping is deactivated here. And now let's make a cut from here to here. And next I want to select this point here, activate the move tool, and now we need to enable snapping to points. And I'm going to move this point over and up until it snaps to this point here of the window frame. And now let's deactivate snapping again. Next I'm going to select these points here, get in very close, and I'm going to move these up and align them with the edge of the window frame. And I'm going to select these points here, get in very close again and move these up and also align them with the edge of the window frame. Okay, and now if we render this, we shouldn't have any gaps in here. And if we apply the dark material to the window grid and do another test render, we shouldn't have any overlapping either. And this looks fine, so I'm going to delete this dark material here again. And now I'm going to select these points here, copy the Y position, select these points over here and paste the Y position. Next I'm going to select this point and again copy the Y position, and now select these points here and these points, paste the Y position. Now I'm going to select this point again, and this time I'm going to copy the X position, and now select this point here, paste the X position and make sure that it's positive. And now let's select these points here, copy the Y position and select these points and paste the Y position. And now we need to remove the n-gons. If you switch to the polygon mode, you can see that we have two n-gons, one here and the other one here. So let's go back to the point mode, right click and activate the knife tool, and this time I want to use snapping to points. Okay, and make a cut from this point to this point over here. Okay, now let's go to the edge mode. Just want to make sure that we still have all the edges that we need for beveling, and it looks fine. So now we can start duplicating this window grid. Go to functions, duplicate, and we need 6 copies. Enable movement on the x-axis, deactivate rotation, apply these settings. And now let's connect these window grids here. Delete these objects, select this one and select the tags, set the selection and delete these tags here. Now let's duplicate again. This time we need 3 copies. Deactivate movement, enable rotation and apply these settings. And again, let's connect these window grids here. Delete these objects, select this one and the tags, set the selection and delete these tags. And now I'm going to drag this window grid into the 5th floor null object. And that's it for this lesson. Let's do a quick render. In the next bit we're going to make the ceiling on top of this 5th floor. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you then. Bye bye. Hi and welcome back. In this lesson we're going to make the top ceiling. So first of all, let's switch off our 5th floor object here, and I'm going to make the 1st to 4th floors and the ground floor invisible for the renderer. And now let's create a cube, and I want this cube to have a size of 2760 by 11.5 by 2760 units. Now let's make this cube editable. Go to the polygon mode and select this top polygon here. Go to the front view, hit O on the keyboard, right click and extrude this polygon. And I want to switch off the real-time update here. And I'm using an offset of 8 units. Hit apply, and I'm going to scale this new polygon to 2810 by 2810 units. And next I want to extrude again with an offset of 11.5 units. Hit apply, and now let's extrude with an offset of 8 units again, and this time hit new transform and scale this polygon to 2860 by 2860 units. And now I'm going to extrude again with an offset of 15 units. Hit apply, and extrude again with an offset of 6 units. Hit new transform this time and scale this polygon down to 2840 by 2840 units. And I'm going to extrude one more time with an offset of 15 units. And this is the basic shape of our ceiling. And we need to bring the Phong angle down a bit to 43 maybe. Okay, and now let's go to the edge mode and use the loop selection tool to select these edges here. Right click and bevel them. And I want to change the type to convex here. Make this 5 subdivisions and an inner offset of 6.8. And now let's use the loop selection again to select these edges here. Right click and bevel these. I'm going to use the same settings as before, but I want to change the inner offset to 5 units. And this is the final shape of our top ceiling. Now let's go to the perspective view and use the loop selection tool again to select these edges here and these edges down here. Go to the top view and use the rectangle selection tool to select all of these corner edges. Set this selection and rename it to edges for beveling. And I'm also going to rename this to top ceiling. And let's make a copy of this and make this copy invisible. And if you want to bevel the edges on this object, right click and bevel. Change the type to linear, the subdivisions to 0. And I'm using an inner offset of 0.2 maybe. And we need to bring the Phong angle down a bit more, 21. If you render this, you can see that we have these creases here. And if you don't want to have these creases, go to the point mode. Select these 2 points here. Go to structure, weld, and weld these in the middle by left clicking anywhere in the viewport. Hit the spacebar to switch back to the live selection tool. Select these 2 points, hit the spacebar again to switch back to the weld tool, and again left click anywhere in the viewport to weld these points in the middle. And you can see that we don't have this crease anymore. Okay, and up here we'd have to do the same thing. Select these 2 points, weld them, and weld these 2 points. And of course you'd have to do this for the other 3 corners as well. Okay, and this is what the object would look like with beveled edges. Now let's delete this and make our copy with the unbeveled edges visible again. Switch to the Object Axis tool and activate the Move tool. And now let's enable snapping and deselect point and select edge and midpoint. Go to the front view, hit O on the keyboard, and I'm going to move this object axis down to the bottom edge of the ceiling. Then go back to the model tool, deselect midpoint on the snap settings tab, and make the 5th floor visible again. And now let's move our ceiling up to here and snap it back down onto the 5th floor. And I'm going to apply this white material here to our top ceiling and make the 1st to 4th floors and the ground floor visible for the renderer. Okay, let's do a quick test render. And this is what we have so far. In the next bit we're going to make the rooftop corners. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you then. Bye bye. Hi, in this bit we're going to make the rooftop corners, and I'm going to start by creating a cube. And I want this cube to have a size of 150 by 70 by 150 units. And now let's make this cube editable. Go to the polygon mode and delete this polygon down here. Then select this polygon at the top, right click and extrude it with an offset of 5 units. And I want to scale this polygon to 160 by 160 units. And next I want to extrude again with an offset of 5, so hit apply and then extrude once more by hitting new transform. And I want to scale this down to 150 by 150 units. Then right click, extrude inner, and I'm using an offset of 10 units here. Right click and extrude with an offset of 15 units. And I'm going to scale this down to 100 by 100 units. Okay, next I want to rename this to rooftop corner. Select the Phong tag and reduce the Phong angle to 43. And now I want to select these 2 polygons here, right click and extrude inner with an offset of 10 units. And we need to bring the maximum angle down to below 90 degrees. Right click and extrude by -5 units. Right click and extrude inner with an offset of 10 units again. And let's extrude once more with an offset of 2.5. And now let's switch to the edge mode, hit Ctrl A to select all of the edges, and then use the ring selection tool to deselect these edges and these edges here and these ones. Let's go to the front view, hit O on the keyboard, and I'm going to deselect these edges at the bottom. And let's save this selection, and if you want to rename it to edges for beveling. I'm going to make a copy of this one, make the copy invisible. If you want to bevel the edges on this object, right click and bevel, and I'm using an offset of maybe, let's use 0.2 here. Bring the Phong angle down a bit more to 21. Switch to the point mode, and now we need to clean up the mesh a bit here. If you zoom in on this corner, you can see that we need to fix this gap down here. So I'm using the live selection to select these 2 points here, then go to structure, weld, and weld these points to this point down here. And I'm going to use the spacebar to switch between the live selection tool and the weld tool. And I'm going to select these 2 points and weld them down to here. And over here at this corner we need to do the same thing, select these 2 points down here, weld them to this point, and over here we need to select these 2 points down here and weld them to the bottom point. Okay, and this is how the object looks with beveled edges. And now let's delete this beveled rooftop corner and make our copy visible. And now let's go to the polygon mode and select this top polygon here, and then go to selection, grow selection, and we have to do this a couple of times, so I'm going to use the keyboard shortcut here, which is UY. Okay, select all of these polygons and then go to selection, set selection, and this will create this polygon selection tag here, and I'm going to rename this to roof material. And now click on the rooftop corner to deselect this tag, and then go to selection, invert, and set this new selection, and this will create a second polygon selection tag, which I'm going to call wall material. Okay, and now we could drag the white material and the dark material onto this object, and with the dark material selected you can see its attributes down here in the attribute manager, and I'm going to drag the roof material tag down into this selection field here, then click on the white material and drag the wall material tag down here. And now if we render this, we should have the dark material apply to the roof section and the white material to the rest of this object. Okay, now let's go to the front view and move the object axis. So I'm going to switch on the object axis tool, go to the move tool, and we need to snap to edges here. So let's move this object axis down until it snaps to the bottom edge of this rooftop corner. And then switch to the model tool, zoom out, and move this corner up to here and snap it to the top ceiling. And I want to move this to -1305 on the x-axis and on the z-axis. And now let's go to the object axis tool, and I want to reset the object axis to 0 on the x-axis and on the z-axis. Go back to the model tool and duplicate this rooftop corner. We need 3 copies, and we need to deactivate movement and enable rotation. Hit apply, and next I'm going to connect these 4 rooftop corners. Delete these 2 objects. Rename this new object to rooftop corners, and then go to the edge mode and select all of the edge selection tags here. Now let's set this selection and delete these 3 tags here. And now I want to select all of the roof material tags. Let's go to the polygon mode here. Hit restore selection, select polygons, and now set this selection. And next I want to select all of the wall material tags. Again, restore selection, select polygons, and set this selection. And now we can delete all of these tags here. Okay, and this is what we have so far. Let's do a quick render. And in the next bit we're going to make the walls between these rooftop corners. Thanks for watching this, and I'll see you then. Bye bye. Hi and welcome back. In this part we're going to make the walls in between these rooftop corners. And if we take a look at the finished model, you can see how these walls are supposed to look. We're going to have 7 of these little roofs up here, and I want the peak of each of these roofs to be aligned with the center of these windows here. So what I'm going to do is select the walls of the 5th floor, and I'm going to select this polygon here, and you can see that the right edge of this polygon is at the center of this window here. So I'm going to split this polygon off, drag it out of the 5th floor null object, and I'm going to make the 5th floor invisible. Go to the point mode and select these 2 points here at the bottom, align them on the y-axis, And I'm going to center the object axis on this polygon, then go to the object axis tool and activate the move tool. Let's check the snap settings. We need to snap to edges here. So let's snap this object axis to the bottom edge of this polygon and go to the model tool and move this polygon up and snap it to the top ceiling. And I want to change the height of this polygon to 45 units. Now let's go to the object axis tool again and change the snapping to points. Let's move this object axis over to the left here. Now let's go to the edge mode and select this edge here. Activate the move tool and change the snapping to edges. And move this edge over until it snaps to the edge of the rooftop corner here. And now let's go to the object axis tool again, change the snapping to points, move the object axis all the way to the left again, go back to the model tool, switch to the top view, and I'm going to make the top ceiling invisible. And now I'm going to snap this polygon to this point here. And now this polygon should be aligned with the front wall of this rooftop corner here. Next, let's go to the edge mode and I'm going to select this edge here, switch to the front view, and I'm going to make the 5th floor visible again. Right click and extrude this edge with an offset of 350 units. Hit apply and then hit new transform 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 times. Okay, let's check the snap settings here. We need to snap to edges. Now let's move this edge back until it snaps to this edge here of this rooftop corner. And now we should have an object that fits perfectly in between these two rooftop corners here. I'm going to make the rooftop corners and the 5th floor invisible now. And I'm going to select these edges here. Right click and bevel these with an inner offset of 50 units and 1 subdivision. And I don't want to create n-gons here. Apply these settings. Now let's go to the point mode and select this point in the middle. And I want to move this up by 20 units on the y-axis. Let's go to the polygon mode. Right click and extrude these polygons with an offset of -90. You can use any offset you like here. And I want to create caps. Hit apply. And I want to change the font angle here to 21. And now let's go to the edge mode and select this edge here, right click and bevel it. And I want to use an inner offset of 15 with 5 subdivisions. And this time I want to create n-gons, and we need to change the type to convex. And now let's select these two edges here, right click and bevel these with an offset of 10 units. And the other settings are the same as before. Next, let's remove the n-gons. Go to the top view, hit O on the keyboard, switch to the point mode, and I'm going to select all of these points at the back and delete them. Let's go to the front view, switch to the polygon mode, select all of these polygons here, right click and melt them. And now I want to center the object axis on this object. Go to the point mode, select this point here as a reference. You can see it's positioned at -60 on the x-axis. So this is where I want to move this point to as well. And this point over here I want to move to 60 units on the x-axis. Now let's go to the polygon mode, and with this n-gon here selected, right click and extrude inner with an offset of 5 units. Now let's go to the point mode, and we need to clean up the mesh here a bit. Let's select these 2 points here and go to structure, weld, and weld them to this point. And over here we need to select these 2 points and weld them to this point. And you can see that right now we have this triangle here, and since I'm going to extrude these polygons here later on, we're going to need the edge in the corner here for beveling. So I want to get rid of this triangle here, because this is going to give us trouble, because we're having 2 edges that meet in one point, in a single point here. So let's go to the edge mode and select this edge here and this one over here. Right click and apply an edge cut with an offset of 50% and 1 subdivision, and we want to create n-gons here. Now let's go to the point mode, right click, activate the knife tool, deselect the constraint option here, and we want to snap to points. Now I'm going to cut from here to here, and over here I want to cut from this point to this point. Let's go to the polygon mode and select these 2 polygons here and these 2 over here. Right click and melt them. And now we have a 4-sided polygon, and if we extrude these polygons later on, we're not going to have any trouble when we bevel the edge in this corner here. Next I want to remove this n-gon here, so let's go to the point mode, right click and activate the knife tool again. If you want to, you can use the constraint option here. I want to make a cut here and one over here, and I'm going to select this point here as a reference, copy the X position, then select these 2 points, paste the X position and align these points. And over here I'm going to select these 2 points, paste the same X position, just make sure that it's positive, and also align these points. Now let's right click and activate the knife tool again, deselect the constraint option here, and I want to make a cut here and one here. And I also want to cut from this point to this point, and from this point to this point. And next I want to remove the n-gons here. Okay, and you can see that we have a lot of triangles here, and this is going to be a bit of a problem later on when we extrude these polygons, because we need the edges down here for beveling. But we're going to solve this problem differently than up here. So for the time being we're going to leave the geometry as it is. Now let's hit Ctrl A. We need to reverse the normals here. Okay, and now let's use the loop selection tool to select these polygons here. Right click and extrude them without caps, and I'm using an offset of 5 units. And next I want to select these polygons down here and delete them. And I also want to select these polygons up here and delete them as well. Now let's go to the point mode, deselect all and optimize the object. Next let's switch to the edge mode and use the loop selection to select these edges here. And I also want to select these 2 and these 2 edges here. And I want this one down here and this one up here. And over here we need to select this edge and this edge down here. Let's go ahead and save this selection and rename it to edges for beveling. Let's go to the front view, hit O on the keyboard, and now I'm going to select all of these edges here. And delete these edges. Okay, and next I'm going to make a copy of this wall here, and I'm going to rename this to rooftop walls beveled. Okay, and I'm going to drag this into the temp null object. And this time I'm not going to save any edges on the original wall, so I'm going to delete this selection tag here. It will be easier to do a beveled version of this wall with a separate object, because if we bevel the edges that we saved before, we need to clean up the mesh, and it's going to save us a lot of work to do this on a separate object. It's easier in this case. Okay, so now what I want to do is go to the polygon mode and select all of these polygons here, right click and split them off, and I'm going to rename this new object to wall piece, and I want to duplicate this wall piece. We need 3 copies, and we need to enable movement on the x-axis, and I'm going to change the movement to minus 350 units, deactivate rotation and apply these settings, then select the wall piece again and duplicate once more, and again we need 3 copies, and this time we need to change movement on the x-axis to plus 350 units. And now we can get rid of this wall piece here, and I want to connect these 6 wall pieces. Okay, drag this down here, select the walls, go to the front view, and now let's go to the edge mode. We need to move some edges here. Let's select this edge here, activate the move tool and change the snapping to edges. Snap this edge to here, and now we need to move this edge over to here. Okay, snap this edge to here, this one to here, and continue doing that for all of these edges. Okay. So everything should be aligned now. And now I'm going to connect the walls and the wall piece. Delete these 2 objects here and select the new object, go to the point mode, deselect all and optimize the object. And next I want to center the object axis on this wall. Go to the front view, activate the object axis tool and the move tool, and I want to change the snapping to points, and I want to change the type to snap 3D this time. Move the object axis down to this point here, and now it should be exactly on this edge at the front, and I'm going to move it back by plus 5 units on the z-axis, and that is the amount by which we extruded these polygons earlier. So now this object axis is in line with this edge here. Okay, and now let's deactivate snapping and go to the edge mode. Next I want to select the edges that we need for extruding the roof on these walls. So let's go to the front view, and I'm using the live selection tool here to select these edges here. And now let's use the rectangle selection tool to select these edges. So these are the edges that you should have selected now. Now let's right click and extrude these edges with an offset of 0. And let's make sure that snapping is deactivated. And now I want to align these edges on the Z-axis and move them back by any amount you like. Now let's go to the polygon mode and use the loop selection tool to select these polygons. Right click and split them off. Select our new object and rename this to roof. And I'm going to select the original object and delete these polygons again. Go to the point mode, deselect all and optimize the object. And I'm going to drag this roof into the temp null object for the time being. Okay, now we're going to take a short break, and in the next bit we're going to complete these rooftop walls. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you then. Bye bye.